Yeah.
Ẹ̀dùnrún tí bá ti sọ pé start, kẹwàá start, ó yá, next one.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, members of the University Community of the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Today marks the 6th series of the webinar of this university. And the title of this morning's webinar is Ethics of Examination and Invigilation. My name is Dr. Dada Pius Olusegun. I'm the chairman of TIMTEC of this university. The focus of this webinar is to discuss some crucial issues and aspects pertaining to the maintenance of integrity of our examination processes. Also, expectation of stakeholders in terms of the HODs, TIMTEC members, students, and invigilators, the roles and responsibilities of these stakeholders, and how to adhere to the ethical standards through clear-cut guidelines before, during, and after the examination. We'll also be looking at the specific considerations for invigilation at health centers and e-exam centers. Let me welcome every one of us to this webinar. Simply put, examination, what is it? It's a test of knowledge and ability of students. And the essence of examination is to allow students to focus on their studies and to further train them on punctuality, timing excellence, writing skills, and expression of their thoughts, and above all, to motivate them in their studies. If these are things that are not done, they will not be taking examination seriously. And the assessment of students and the integrity of examination is of paramount importance to the management of this university. And that is why the management has saddled this responsibility to the timetable and examination committee of this university, because of the sensitive role and important role of examination. We are here to ensure that the integrity of our examination is not compromised at any level, because that is what makes a university. Invigilation of examination is an important task, and invigilators have great roles to play to ensure that exam runs effectively and is conducted in a free, fair, and an appropriate manner. And I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the university management for giving us this opportunity to speak to our people, students, staff, together, so that we will know what the ethics of examination is all about. I want to say, first of all, we want to start from the conduct of invigilators before, during, and after examinations, and also the responsibilities of the HODs and other stakeholders. We'll be discussing all this in this webinar. Let me now start with the general rules of an invigilator. The general rules, generally, the invigilator is to help the chief examiner or chief invigilator to set up the examination venue. In other words, he has to be there to set up the examination venue. He has to be there at least 30 minutes before the examination commences. And he reminds the candidates of the rules and regulations of the university on examination as students before they enter into the examination hall. He also has to check in the candidates with their university ID card and sometimes their exam passes. These are two very crucial, important documents that every student that wants to do examination must carry: the university ID card and the exam passes. These exam passes must have been duly signed by the HOD and stamped by the HOD of each of the students in their respective departments. The general rule is to also attend to candidates who have not brought their student ID card. He attends to them. If they have not brought it, he puts them aside, they should go and get it. If they don't have it, they have to go and go to the appropriate offices to get all this sorted out before they come for the examination. He also checks that the students don't have things that can incriminate them. They could have things that could be useful, like their pens, calculators, erasers, and papers, but they are not to bring in gadgets like phones, mobile phones, smartwatches, and some things that could incriminate them. He also issues supplementary booklets for candidates or sheets to candidates during the examination when they need it. Sometimes when the students need to go to the toilet, they need to ease themselves. He has the responsibility to take them there. If a man will take a female student, and a female lecturer or invigilator will take a female student and he stays by the door to check them when they finish. He also records the attendance of the candidates, the students in the halls. And these are some of them. Now, more on the general rules. For example, he has to be vigilant. He has to monitor the venue constantly, observing candidates An invigilator is not supposed to be just sitting down, looking, reading newspaper, or eating, or doing anything out of the sort, or watching on his phone. He has to be very vigilant and to monitor and ensure that students are kept in check. You know that if students are not kept in check, they will take use of that opportunity to perpetuate what is called exam misconduct, and we don't want that. So he also has to report to the chief invigilator when he observes any suspicious or inappropriate behavior among the students. The chief invigilator is the senior invigilator in any of the halls, in any of the exam halls, maybe the most senior invigilator in any of the exam halls. He also collects the scripts, booklets at the end of the examination. At the end of the examination, that is the role of the invigilator. He helps the invigilator, most times the chief invigilator, to carry these scripts to the office when needed. These things are very important. If you have a large number of students in a certain hall, it is the responsibility of invigilators there to assist the chief invigilator to move some of these scripts that have been done, the exam scripts, to the office where they will be put. He also has to report exam misconduct cases to the chief invigilator, who then reports to TIMTEC, And he also supervises candidates in a quiet and unobstructive manner. This is very, very important. When candidates have issues, he responds to them promptly. When candidates raise up their hand for any issue, he responds to them promptly. And he clarifies errors on paper with the chief examiner. The chief examiner in this case is the HOD. Before making any correction. So if maybe there's a question that is not clear, the invigilator has to make clarification. He consults with the chief examiner, the HOD, and then before he makes the correction and announces to the students. Now, other duties. Let's go to the duties of an examination invigilator before the exam starts. Now, what is he going to do? Number one, he's supposed to be at that venue 30 minutes before the exam, before the commencement of the examination. And he makes sure that he go through the hall, checks through the hall, make sure that there's nothing, no papers, nothing littering the ground, nothing incriminating in the halls before he allows students to begin to move in. And he picks up exam materials, he collects it from the exam officer or the chief examiner, as the case may be. He receives the questions, he receives the attendance sheets, the pack, and these packs will be sealed in brown envelopes before the exams. He picks up regulation notices and clocks the exam rooms. He looks at the time, he's sure that okay, this exam is going to start by 9 o'clock. So he's ready, he watches the time at all times. And then he sets out question paper most times, and even his necessary stationery on the desks of the students, even before and after these candidates enter. He distributes the scripts there. He distributes the question papers to them. That is the function of the invigilator. And he assists candidates prior to starting of the exams by directing them to their seats and making sure that they remove any possession that can incriminate them in the venue. He offers advice, he guides them, and he guides those that are registered. Most times, some of these students, they might not even have registered for these courses. They will not be able to come in. So he must have gotten that information right at the entrance of the venue of the examination. Now, when the examination starts, what is the role of the invigilator? Is to ensure ordered entry of candidates into the exam hall. Ordered entry. They must not rush into the exam hall. They must not be pushed into the exam hall. They must be in an orderly manner, moving one by one and being checked. That means we have a male invigilator and a female invigilator at the entrance, so that they can check both male and female candidates that are coming for the exam. He ensures that the bags of these candidates, the bags, their belongings, are left outside the halls, not inside the halls. Most times you see students bringing their bags into the exam venue. This is very, very wrong. They are supposed to make sure that the bags and all their belongings are outside the exam venues. And then their phones, all the gadgets are not even taken into the exam hall. Now, at the start of the examination, the invigilator is to inspect the hall, search the candidates before they are seated for the examination to ensure that no student has on him or her or herself any unauthorized material. Unauthorized materials are maybe chips, phones, smart wristwatches, and so on and so forth. He must put candidates in their seats according to the seating plan, and then he has to confirm the identity of the candidates. Look at the exam passes intermittently with their ID cards. Look at their faces and check to ensure that the right candidate is sitting for the exam that is supposed to sit for. And he must also inform any candidates with a mobile phone or electronic gadgets on them to keep them outside the hall immediately. But he does not have to collect the mobile phone. All he has to do is to be sure that if there's any issue, he will report to the necessary authority like TIMTEC or the chief invigilator in that hall. He reads out the regulations. It's very, very important. And the procedures set up by the university on exam to candidates. And he reads specific instructions to candidates during this examination. He also ensures that the correct papers, the correct questions are given to the right candidates. Because there are cases when you have maybe a candidate having two courses or several candidates, maybe two in the hall, you have two different sets of questions or exams. So you have to make sure that the right candidate has the right question for his or her exam. And when the register is taken, that is the attendance, you make sure that if there is a list of absent candidates in that hall, he needs to report to the exam officer or to the chief examiner. And he must make sure that the number of candidates in each hall tallies with those that are written on the attendance register. Now, during the examination too, when the exam has started, any student that arrives late, because we know that students are supposed to be there 30 minutes before the exam. If an exam is supposed to start by 9 o'clock and a student comes in by exactly 9 o'clock, that student is already late. So during the exam, late arrival of candidates should not be allowed into the exam after 30 minutes as the exam has started. Now, sometimes we have exams that are 2 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes still holds. We have exams that are 1 hour exams. If that's the candidate comes in 30 minutes, it's already late. It's already late. As a matter of fact, if an exam is supposed to be 1 hour and the candidate comes in maybe 10 minutes to 9, we regard that student as being late to the exam. Invigilators should not sit during the exam. They should move around throughout the period of the examination. They should not be seated reading newspaper, reading their phone. They should be moving around, checking, observing. When the students see that the invigilators are always moving around, they will be put in check. They will be controlled. If they want to do anything bad, they will think twice before they do it. And also during the exam, you must check attendance during the exam. Check attendance. It's very, very important. Sometimes students can sneak out. They can sneak in. You have to be very vigilant to check the attendance. And you must also, the rules governing the conduct and invigilation of examination should be strictly observed when the exam has started. Now, sometimes a student who finishes early and wants to leave the exam hall should not be allowed, especially if we still have a lot of time. For example, you have a course, an exam that is 2 hours, and a student finishes in 45 minutes and he wants to leave. That student will not be allowed to leave that hall. It's not supposed to be allowed. He has to wait at least maybe 15 to 20 minutes to the end of the exam before he or she leaves the exam hall. Now, for the invigilator too, you don't have to eat. No eating of food is allowed in the exam hall. No reading of newspaper is allowed in the exam when the exam is in progress. All these things are they're supposed to be frowned at, and the university does not really allow it. Now, let me now move to the exam rules and regulations for candidates, that is the students themselves. As I said earlier, students coming for an exam must be present at the examination hall 30 minutes before the commencement of the exam. 30 minutes. When students come late, they give the invigilators a lot of work to do, because you want to move them in, you want to start the exam by 9, and before you know it, time is gone. That makes it very, very impossible to start the exam at exactly 9 o'clock. So students must always be there 30 minutes before the exam, and they will be checked in. Most times, if we have a large capacity exam that is coming up, we don't put one or two. We look at the capacity of invigilators and the students before we allot invigilators to that hall. So we always have more than enough invigilators in every hall. And candidates must present their identity cards. You must put it around your neck. You must present it to the invigilator at the entrance before you are allowed into the exam hall. You must also have your exam passes shown to the invigilators at the entrance before you are allowed into the exam hall. You don't have to cover your face. You don't cover anything. You don't wear face caps. All these things are not allowed. Your face must be properly shown before you can enter an exam hall. They must be sure that the right person that wants to do the exam is the right person that is in front of them. And then they must present themselves for search. Most students don't want this. It is very, very important that you must be searched as a student before you are allowed into the exam hall. And even while in the exam hall, the invigilator can tell you to please rise up. He wants to check you. You have nothing to worry about. You just have to stand up, let him do his work, his duty. It's just for the greater good and for the sanctity of our examination. Now, more on exam rules for students. Mobile phones must not, as I said earlier, must not be brought into the examination hall. Smart wristwatches must not be brought into the examination hall. Even if that phone is off, even if that phone is switched off, if you bring it into the exam hall and you are caught with it, you are still culpable for that offense. You'll be tried for that offense. You'll be facing SDC for that offense. We don't allow iPods. We don't allow iPads. These things are not to be brought into the examination hall. Bluetooth facilities. Some people use Bluetooth facilities. They put on earphone, Bluetooth, BlackBerry phones. They are not allowed in and within the examination hall. Candidates may use non-programmable calculators in examination. No problem about that. But when you begin to have programmable calculators, the university frowns at it. It is an exam misconduct. So use of any programmable calculator will be deemed exam misconduct, and the candidate will face disciplinary actions. Also, we have no candidate should make noise or raise false alarm in the examination hall. You don't make noise, you don't make false alarm. Bringing dangerous weapons to the examination hall and threatening other students and even invigilators is prohibited, and these have sanctions appropriately. No refusal to sit or prevent other students from sitting for an examination anywhere on the campus are great offenses with strict penalties, and this will be frowned at by the university management. Also, unauthorized possession, mutilation of university, maybe blank scripts, answer scripts, or any paper supplied is considered exam misconduct. It's considered exam misconduct. Failure to submit your extra scripts after an examination is exam misconduct. Most students, we see cases whereby students will take the exam scripts because they have not done anything. They will just take it out, and they've written attendance. You now be looking for the scripts. Once we have found out that you have taken that script, it has been suspected, and you have been found culpable, you are able to face the disciplinary action. Now let me now move to more back to the invigilators. For the lecturer, as an invigilator, you must, as I said, you must inspect the hall, search the candidates before they are seated for the examination to ensure that no student has on him or her any unauthorized material. And all the invigilators must be at the examination hall 30 minutes before the commencement of the examination. Invigilators must not allow students to bring any paper, no matter what, even if it is a blank paper, into the examination hall. They should normally enter the examination hall only with their pen, with their ink, with their pencil or eraser or ruler or any other materials such as maybe mathematical instruments. And these mathematical instruments will be checked even when the exam is being done. You must check them to ensure that there is nothing hidden inside those examination mathematical instruments. Also, you must not allow them to bring in bags. You must not allow them to bring in books, lecture files or other student properties. They must be left outside the hall. They must be left outside the hall. Also, after the examination, what are you supposed to do? The invigilator should collect the extra scripts. Not that you allow the students to be bringing it forward. Unless the time has not elapsed, they can still bring it forward. But once the exam has ended, they are supposed to be sitting down. You go collect the script from them one by one. Not that they stand up and start bringing the scripts forward. Before you know it, some might not submit at that time, and you will not be able to know which one of them has not submitted. Also, invigilators shall properly search the candidates before they are checked into the examination halls. And then when you find a student maybe he has been involved in exam misconduct as an invigilator, what do? You call on the chief invigilator. He calls the student writes a statement, and the student has the right to continue his or her examination. You don't say because you are caught you are not doing the exam. No, the student has the right to finish his or her examination even if he or she is involved in the exam misconduct. And then also a student, you as a lecturer or as an invigilator, you are not supposed to tear the script of any student. You are not supposed to squeeze the script of any student. You are not supposed to engage in any physical contact with the student, maybe hitting the person or something. You are not supposed to do all this. This was not really right, and it's really wrong. So the invigilator has to write a report, because when you catch a student involved in exam misconduct, you are supposed to write the report too. You are supposed to write a report and officially notify the chief invigilator and the chairman of TIMTEC for necessary action. Also, candidates caught in any act of misconduct, they are advised to write that statement. in their own interest. And if they don't want to write, no problem. They should not be coerced to write. Just inform the TIMTEC, inform the chief invigilator there. We know what to do. In such cases, what we do is that we call on the chief security officer of the university, who comes and ensures that that student the student is handed over to him after the exam, and he goes to write his own statement. Now, when the examination is finished, examinators are not expected to leave the exam hall before the exam finishes, rather. We have to be 20 minutes to the exam. No invigilator should leave, because anything can happen if you are absent. To be absent for invigilation without due permission from maybe TIMTEC chairman, it's not right, because we have put you there. We expect you to be at your duty post. And the invigilators, as I said, must not engage in distracting activities. Maybe talking together, talkings, gisting, doing examinations. These are things that can make students to begin to cheat, because they see that they are not really monitoring them. And then also, invigilators must ensure that conducive atmosphere is maintained during examination. Conducive. You must not call on the student, hey, you, come here. Hey. Everything must be quiet, because every little noise you make causes a distraction in the hall. It causes and on no account should the invigilators engage in physical exchange with candidates. On no account. Even if when you have been maybe they push you to do it, you don't have to do such a thing. And then examination at venues and time allocated or allotted for must be strictly adhered to. If it is 3 hours, you follow the 3 hours. And then in an event of maybe unruly behavior by a candidate, maybe he's apprehended for examination misconduct, the men of the security unit, they are all attached to each of these halls. Just call them quietly, and they know what to do. They have been trained for such. Now, I want to move to exam materials. What are examination materials? Most times, examination materials, they are very, very important, and they are to be handled with the great degree of confidentiality. The chief examiner, that is the HOD, is expected to enclose the question sheets, the booklets, the answer booklets, the attendance sheets, and other materials, maybe CD or whatever needed for the examination, in well-sealed envelopes. Well-sealed. And the sealed envelope that contains all these materials needed for examination should be taken to the exam venues by the HOD or the exam officer, as the case may be. And it must be handed over to the invigilators before the exam commences, at least 30 minutes before the exam commences. It must be handed over to the invigilators. The invigilators are then to take this into the hall, and when the exam is about to start, they show the students, this is your question, and they open it so they can see that it is just being opened, and then they begin to distribute to the students. And now, so before the end of the exam, attendance sheets should be retrieved by the invigilators and necessary portions filled by the invigilators. Most times, attendance sheets, you see that there's only 1 or 2 invigilators that will sign it. This is wrong. Every invigilator in that hall is supposed to sign the attendance sheets. They're supposed to sign the attendance sheets. At completion of the examination, the invigilator should collect the answer sheets, they collect the answer booklets from the candidates by hand and not by proxy. Students have that kind of thing, they do it. Say, let me submit. No, submit for me because you are in front. No, it's wrong. You are to hand over your scripts to the invigilator by yourself. Invigilators should also count the number of answer sheets and make sure that they tallies with the number of students on the attendance register. And you have to check this, because students during exams, you find out that they have not signed the attendance sheets. They are so engrossed in writing the examination, they forget to sign the attendance sheet. So the invigilator has that duty to point out to them, whoever, is there anybody that has not signed the attendance sheet? You keep on moving. You can move around. Have you signed this? Have you signed? You must ensure that they do this. If not, you might not have the same number of students writing the exam, tallying with the numbers on the attendance sheets. And thereafter, you collect this. The invigilator should enclose the answer sheets and question papers in separate envelopes, pack them, and then fill the appropriate envelopes, write the appropriate the courses and the code and everything, and submit to the chief invigilator. And the chief examiner is expected to go back, that is the HOD. You are expected to go back to the examination venue to retrieve the answer booklets, to retrieve the answer sheets from the invigilators after the exam. You must not leave it there. because they are not supposed to be looking for you. You are supposed to go there as the examiner, as the chief examiner, to collect your answer booklets from the invigilators. Now, before retrieval of the envelope containing the answer sheets, booklets or exam sheets, the chief examiner should make sure that the report of the invigilators as regards the number of candidates tallies with the number of candidates on the attendance sheets is before he takes it out of the hall. This is very, very important. Now, let me move to how do we handle exam malpractice cases. Exam malpractice cases. The invigilator will first of all collect all the exhibits that the candidate is using to perpetrate the examination misconduct. He collects it. Now, the invigilator will now provide a sheet of paper. Most times, we have designated sheets in TIMTEC, incidents form, exam malpractice form, exam misconduct form. We give to each of the TIMTEC members, and they are all the TIMTEC members are in all these respective halls, moving around and ensuring compliance. So what the invigilator does is that he collects that sheet from the TIMTEC, and the student feels, he writes the report of how he brought in whatever inappropriate material, he fills it and he signs it. At the end of that, details of the student must ensure as an invigilator, the details of the student, his name, his matriculation number, his department, the course he's doing at that moment, the venue and of the examination, everything is well stated in that sheet that the student is filling. The paper, the course on which the examination practice is being involved should also be stated. Maybe whatever course he's doing, it must be stated in that exam on that sheet. Now, in case the candidate refuses to write the report, because we have instances when candidates will refuse to write the report, what should the invigilator do? The invigilator should inform the chairman of TIMTEC, who will invite the chief security officer to take necessary steps in taking the statement from that candidate. Now, thereafter, the candidate will be allowed to continue with and complete his examination. He has the right to continue and complete his examination. Now, the invigilator will now write a comprehensive report concerning the examination malpractice. So the student has written his own. You also, as an invigilator, you are supposed to write your own report, and then you hand that over to the chief invigilator, who will also write his own reports. Who will also write his own reports and forward all to the chairman of TIMTEC for onward communication to the university management. Now, however, in order to facilitate procedures of student disciplinary actions, committee of the office, the chief security officer, that is the CSO, request that at the completion of the examination, officers from the office should be invited to also take necessary reports. We have them all around. They also take their own reports. Now, let me move to sanctions for examination misconduct. Because sometimes if you don't know that there are sanctions, you think that you can just get away with anything. I just brought a small phone. It's not even an iPhone. Why am I being apprehended for this? These are very important things. So I want us to take note of this. Sanctions for exam misconduct. For example, failure to display your identity card. What is the penalty for that? The person will be reprimanded and counseling for the first 2 weeks if it is the first time. Now, if you are smoking in an exam hall, you are caught smoking, you'll be reprimanded and counseled for 2 weeks for the first instance. And then for the second instance, the candidate will be rusticated. And if it is the third instance, the candidate will be expelled from the university. Also, raising of false alarm in the examination. Some students have that habit. They raise false alarm as if something is happening. Such a student that is caught for such a thing will be rusticated for 1 semester. Maybe you are making noise during the examination, you will be reprimanded and cancelled for 2 weeks. Failure or refusal to submit yourself for search by an invigilator, it is rustication for 2 semesters and cancelling. These are very grievous offenses. When you are possessing unauthorized blank, maybe university exam sheets or exam booklets, unauthorized, that is rustication. The penalty is rustication for 2 semesters. Thereafter, you are going to be cancelled. When you mutilate or you remove any answer scripts or paper that has been supplied for examination from the exam venue, you are going to face the penalty of rustication for 2 semesters with cancelling. Failure to submit answer scripts to the invigilator after an examination is also rustication for 2 semesters, plus cancelling for the first time, and if the second time you are doing it, to be expulsion. Or maybe you are having an unauthorized verbal or non-verbal communication between candidates during examination. You are speaking to somebody and you are caught. Maybe just asking a question and you are caught. That is restitution for 1 semester for the first-time offender and expulsion for a second-time offender. That is why if you have anything, if you have any need in the exam hall, what you have to do is to raise up your hand, let the invigilator see you and attend to you. Don't talk to your colleague that you are doing exams together. Very, very dangerous, because whatever you are saying with him or her, we don't know, and that will be deemed as exam misconduct. Now, other sanctions: communicating, maybe involving passing of answer scripts to another person, another candidate or accessory to aid their performance in an exam. Maybe the person does not understand and you quickly wrote it down and you quickly gave it to him or her. What is the penalty for that? The penalty is restitution for 2 semesters for the first-time offender and expulsion from the university if caught for the second time. You see that these are very grievous offenses. Possessing or use of any material such as notes, scripts, crafts, electronic aids, and so on and so forth, microchips, to aid performance in an exam. Expulsion if used and if it has bearing. Even if it does not have bearing, there's penalty for it. If it does not have bearing, it is restitution for 2 semesters. In other words, maybe a sheet of paper was caught with a student and that paper does not even have anything in bearing with the course he's doing, but you have been caught with that paper, it is restitution for 2 semesters. Restitution for 2 semesters. But if it has bearing, it is expulsion from the university. So students have to take note of these very important penalties. Refusal to sit for. When you refuse to sit, or preventing other students from sitting for an examination anywhere in the campus, what the penalty is expulsion. Such a student will be expelled. Smuggling of prepared answer scripts into the exam hall, or submission of same with false pretense that they were prepared in the exam hall, it is expulsion from the university. Nobody will say that you wrote it in the exam hall or you just wrote it. No, once it is caught with you, it is expulsion from the university. Expulsion from the university. Or you smuggle an unauthorized book into the exam hall, it is expulsion from the university. Possession of live question papers, maybe before the exam, you are caught with it before, and you brought it into, before an exam is held, they catch you with it. That is expulsion from the university. If it is investigated and you are found capable, you will be expelled from the university. You are bringing dangerous weapons, knives, guns, clubs, anything, any sharp objects into the examination hall. This is very, very dangerous. It is expulsion from the university. Expulsion from the university. Using of cell phone in the exam. You are caught with a cell phone. It is expulsion from the university. Bringing, impersonating during an exam. I'm sure you know what impersonation means. Somebody else is doing the exam for you and you are not there. The person that is doing that exam will be investigated and will be expelled from the university. The person that they are doing the exam for also is going to face the SDC, and if found culpable, could also be expelled from the university. Maybe you forge or do any form of plagiarism, you'll be expelled from the university. These are very, very important things that we need to know. Now, I must say this. Last semester, we had some cases of exam malpractices. Now, we are trying as much as the university, as university management tries as much as possible to ensure that students that are caught in exam malpractices or exam misconduct, they face SDT immediately within at least a month when the crime has been committed, such that they'll be able to know, they'll be able to be prepared for the next session, they'll be able to know the verdicts and the penalty for the offense that they have committed. There are some times when we're in the university those days, what happens is that when you have an exam malpractice case, it will be kept for maybe 2 years before they even think about it. And the student will be in 300 level before they now bring out the case, and then the person will student will be investigated. But this university does not do that. What we do is that we give timely verdict and consideration. The committee holds the seats, the SDC seats, and they quickly determine the cases and the penalties the cases of these students appropriately. Now, I want to conclude by saying this. We are going to start our first semester examination for this session on the 2nd of April, that is next month, and I believe that our students are ready. Right now, everything is in place. The university management, all that we need is in place. But what the students need to do is to prepare themselves, ensure that the exam passes are printed out, taken to their respective HODs, stamped and signed. They must ensure that they have their ID cards on them, and they must ensure that if they have the mind of even trying to do anything incriminating, any form of exam misconduct, they should change their mind, because we are watching, and we don't want our university to be given a bad name. We want to advise everyone and encourage all students and staff to take this exam very, very seriously, to ensure that this exam makes them and doesn't mar them, because exam can mar and it can also make a student. I want to thank you for this opportunity and the time. I want to appreciate the university management for giving me the time to be able to talk to our staff, to talk to students on exam ethics, rules and regulations governing it. Thank you once again. God bless you all.